Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm your host JT, and if this is your first time tuning in, thank you and welcome. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you know every time I upload a new video. For over the past 2 decades, my next guest has been discovering what it means to be a pastor. He helped pastor one of the largest churches in America and now divides his time between guest speaking for churches, events, and community. In addition to be a celebrated author, he finds time co-hosting a sports podcast. His heart's desire is to bring Jesus into every conversation and every space he occupies. Currently living in Phoenix, Arizona with his wife, Sarah, and his 2 kids, please welcome Steve Carter. Thank you, Steve, for being here.
Definitely, man. It's great to be on your show.
So just to fill you in a little bit, my podcast is about how everyone has a story that matters. And as you know, Jesus uses stories to teach us. Some of his most teachable moments are told through stories. And for you as a pastor, how important is it for you to include storytelling within your sermons? And how do stories move people?
Yeah, great question. I think stories are so impactful, right? Because it's kind of this sense of the soul of an idea. So I can transfer a thought. I can study, I can learn some facts, and I can transfer information. But it's so much different when I speak from a transformed place where that idea has taken up residence within my life and it's taught me some things that I'm beginning then to see all around me. For instance, I was putting my daughter to bed a couple nights ago, and we were reading Chicka Chicka Boom Boom, which is a classic, and she looks at me and she goes, "Dad, do you want to know the most powerful word?" And I was like, "Yeah, totally. What is that?" And she goes, "The most powerful word is forgiveness, because you move from being a holder honor to a let it goer." And before I could
Wow.
literally say that's brilliant, she just looks at me and she goes, "Are you a holder honor or are you a let it goer?" And she took me to church at 9:15 at night the other night. Now, see, I could talk about forgiveness, and all of a sudden, I could tell all these amazing verses and facts, and then I can tell that story about my daughter, and then just say, "Are any of you a holder honor? Any of you holding on to something that someone said or did?" It just makes it so much more accessible and applicable. And that's what Jesus was a master at.
What a great message from your daughter. So you were quoted once saying, "I have had 10,000 stories with my friend, and I have had 10 wounds from my friend." Do you feel that when you are wounded and broken down, that this is a time that we can grow spiritually and personally, but most importantly with the Lord?
For sure. I mean, I think the Bible is a human's experience with the divine, and God names the people of Israel, the Hebrew people. He names them Israel, which means to struggle with God, to struggle with each other, to struggle with yourself and overcome. And so that's literally what the book is about. It's a book of struggling and a book of overcoming, and words of advice along the way. Words of poets, prophets, and preachers who have done the hard work, and poets, prophets, and preachers who have done some really painful work to other people. And so even today I was reading Psalms 22, and verse 1 is the same verse that Jesus quotes at 3 p.m. when darkness covers the land, as he's on the cross, and he says, my God, why have you forsaken me?" And it's powerful because he's not saying, "God, why have you forsaken me?" which is often the human question. He's saying, and quoting the psalmist who said, "My God, why have you forsaken me?" So there's a personal connection and a real personal realization. Though both are true. My God and feeling a sense of forsaken or abandonment or neglect or forgotten. And I think that's part of the human existence. And so you're going to turn to something. You're going to trust something in the midst of the desert. You're going to trust something in the midst of a deserted place. And for me, that anchor is in Christ, and just continuing to trust. And at the end of Psalm 22, it's like this whole anthem of people will see your righteousness. People see all that has happened. And then it says, but he did it. He did it. Like he came through. Even I felt forsaken at the beginning. He did it. And everyone will see. So that's my hope. I just keep leaning in.
And I think for me, I look at that question too, and I look at, when I've been wounded or broken down in physical ways or emotional ways too, who do I lean towards and who do I go towards? And that's my faith in the Lord. And I've been blessed to have that relationship with him to carry me through those moments.
And I think what's unique about wounding from other people is there's a massive difference between forgiveness and reconciliation. So forgiveness is a solo sport. Forgiveness is like me. Like I'm choosing, like we talked about, not to be a holder honor, but I'm choosing to like release it at the cross. I'm choosing to send it away. I'm choosing, and I have this like whole mantra around forgiveness, which is cross, release, send away. So I think about the cross, I think about I've been forgiven. So I'm going to release it and I'm going to send it away. That's basically the two definitions of the word forgiveness in the New Testament: cross, release, send it away. But reconciliation is different. Reconciliation now takes two people that now have to identify and come to a place of acceptance over what has transpired to create this wound. And that's where it gets a little bit tricky, because some people might say, I didn't do that. Or some people might not want to be at a place to acknowledge truth. Or some people might not be ready to go on that path towards reconciliation. And so that's really, really tricky. And just because I've forgiven once doesn't mean I'm not going to have to forgive tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day. Because when someone's wounded you, JT, you're carrying something. They've handed you a 10-pound weight. They've handed you a 25-pound weight. They've handed you a 45-pound weight. And you're strong enough that you'll still go hike a mountain because that's who you are with that weight. But they're not thinking about what they said to you, but you're holding it still. And so it just gets to a point of like, you've got to release that. But just because you release that doesn't mean now you're totally back into great connection with that person. So that's the hard part is, yes, the wounds, releasing, forgiving, but then two, praying towards an openness, a transparency, a repentance, and honesty about what this person did so that you can move forward together.
Yeah. So, sometimes it's just so hard to forgive. But what I've realized is that once I do have that moment of being able to forgive someone for doing something, it allows me to either move on, or it also allows our relationship to grow stronger again. And I think that that's so powerful. But for you, I know you have, you have accomplished so much in your life. And I was wondering, is there anything on your bucket list that you have yet to check off?
Yeah, no, I think it's, I think there's, when I was younger, I think I had all of these real bucket lists. Like this is what I want to do. I'm going to, climb Kilimanjaro. I'm going to, snowboard this mountain. I'm going to, paddle out Jeffreys Bay, like surf there. Like I think I had all of these like bucket lists. And I think probably a little bit of a struggle for me is I found myself living more in the future than in the actual present. And I think oftentimes the enemy can work to cause people to live in the past, and they're reminded about all the things that they've done, or to be caught up in worry and anxiety, or thinking about what tomorrow can be, that they struggle to live in the present. And so I think, honestly, I'm at a point in my life, I've got a 12-year-old son, a 6-year-old daughter. And I have like, I don't know. It sounds pretty lame to me as I say it, but it's really, really true. and not lame, but I just think in the sense of it's not like adventurous. Like, but I think I'm just trying to be more present and figuring out how to participate in my son's life. And so, last 2 nights ago, he told me, he said, "Hey, it'd be really fun if you joined me and played some Fortnite." And so I got on this whole squad with his friends, and they're so good. And I just got destroyed, and they were giggling. And I'm usually better at them in something. If we play sports, I'm just getting destroyed. My ego is getting crushed. But here's the thing. My son was like, been talking about that like crazy. Like, man, it was so fun having you with me in that. And I joined him. And I just think as this parent right now, I think for a long time I've been trying as a leader to get people to join where I'm wanting to go or wanting to take people. And I think just being reminded how Jesus just stopped along the way and was with the children. I'm just learning, I think, afresh and anew to do that. And so that's kind of like what I'm committed to in this season, trying my best at. And I wish I was better at it than I currently am.
That is so important. And I think it's so true that we can all prioritize a little bit more on what is important in our life. And that's great that you get to spend that time with your son and create that connection. So what are some ways that people can connect with you and learn what God is doing through your life?
Yeah, thanks for asking, man. So I host a podcast called the Home Team Podcast, and it's really this intersection of faith, sports, culture, and family. And it's hosted with Tampa Bay Buccaneer Sam Acho. He's a linebacker for them, and then ESPN anchor Sam Ponder. She hosts NFL Countdown on Sunday mornings. So the three of us chop it up every week, which is pretty fun. So you can learn about, search that. And also on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, it's just at Steve Ryan Carter and SteveRyanCarter.com. So yeah, it's pretty simple.
That's awesome. And so there's going to be a lot to talk about this coming up week with the draft and everything. So I'm sure you guys will have some good episodes out.
Yeah, it's going to be fun, man. It's going to be a really interesting draft because typically, last year it was in Nashville. Tonight it's supposed to be in Las Vegas, but with, physical distancing and all of that, it's a different experience. And, the NFL really thought that this was going to be kind of the welcome the Raiders to Vegas, welcome the NFL to Vegas. And now it's like, nope. So it's kind of a unique situation. So it'll be fun to see a draft via Zoom, I guess.
Yeah, so it'll be a very interesting take on it all for sure. So, and then where did your passion for sports come in your life?
That's a really human question. That is a really, for me, because I grew up and my adopted father, who I just called dad, and he died a year ago last Friday. But he was a big Michigan fan, and he grew up in Grand Rapids. There we go. Right. And so every Saturday morning in the fall, Michigan, we lived in Southern California. So Michigan was like the 9 a.m. game and Pacific Standard Time. And so I'd sit up on his lap, and I just kind of found that Michigan football was a way to connect with my dad. And I think as it kind of transpired, the more it went on, as I grew up, you had the Fab Five, there was just something about the character and the colors, the helmet, all of that. I just got so moved by Michigan. But then I think I was an athlete. I played basketball, played soccer. And so I just had a way where I could remember stats. I wasn't great, per se in the classroom, but I was great with stats. So it's just an easy way for me to connect. And I feel like it's like the language of humanity is sports. And then about 12 years ago, my dad came down with leukemia and went to the Grand Rapids hospital, and they took care of him. But when kind of the chemo and the radiation just wore out, they knew he needed a bone marrow transplant. So they sent him to University of Michigan's medical center, to their cancer hospital. And there was one person in the world that was a specific match, and they lived in Europe, and we didn't know her. And she basically gave her bone marrow, saved my dad's life, gave him 10 plus more years allowed our relationship to go to another level. And so it's kind of interesting. I think about sports, and it's connected to U of M, because U of M gave me connection with my dad in the beginning, but it also gave him a decade plus more to live, which created more opportunity for our relationship to be cemented moving forward. And I miss him, but man, I love sports, and I think so much is goes back to those early days.
Yes, and when it comes to relationships, I love that story of relationship. You went, you noticed that sports and Michigan football was your relationship with your dad, but then back up to our earlier conversation and how you have found one of your ways to enter into your son's life too, with a relationship and spending that time with him. And so with that, it brings me to an idea of, we all have mentors in our life, and what's your best advice for our audience of, finding a mentor and how important that is for someone?
Yeah, I think that mentors are like massively important. Rob Lowe, the actor, West Wing, he wrote a book called Love Life. I haven't read it, but I just picked it up at Barnes and Noble and read the first paragraph, and the book starts out, and it's amazing. But it says Alfred Hitchcock says that 90% of a great movie is in the casting of characters. And then Rob Lowe begins to say, and I believe that the same is true with life. If you surround yourself with a cast of characters who are stronger and better, and he just goes off on all of these, descriptors. He goes, if you do that, your life is going to be an Academy Award winner. But if you surround yourself with people of vanilla safety and just people who aren't great, and he's like, you are setting your life up to go straight to DVD, which I thought was such an amazing line. And I just think the constellation of mentors that have been in my sphere, and they've helped me as a pastor, they've helped me as a communicator, they've helped me as a leader, they've helped me as a father, they've helped me as a husband, helped me financially. I mean, they've helped me understand, and I haven't found it all in one person. So I've found some people that are really, really good in specific areas that I'm not good at. And so I can just pick up the phone, give them a shout, ask a few questions, maybe send them some good madcap coffee, or send them something to say thank you, and then just keep learning, keep applying, keep asking questions, go back to them a few months later and do the same thing. And so I, in my even budget, have set aside resources to say, man, there are people that I just need to learn from, grow from, so that I can become all I want to be. So super important.
That resonates with me so much. That brings me to something my grandma always says. She says, show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are. And I think it's just a really powerful statement. But I think mentors in all of our lives can help support us and get us through, challenging times and the good times. So thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your story and how the Lord has worked with you. And thanks for all your powerful words and for being on.
Awesome, JT. Thanks so much for having me, man. Many blessings to you, and just keep inspiring people, man. It's from your book, from this podcast, just from all the good that you're putting out there. Man, it just seems like God is using you, and so well done, man. Well done.
Thank you for listening to my YouTube channel. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment below. And I hope stories like this inspire you to share your story, because your story matters.